So, my name is Bailey Curl, and this is a fictional story completely made up. And it is based off of a prompt that I have for my Huma Honors 111 class. So, this piece is on world annihilation and a little bit of lack of water and food as well. So, my piece is titled The World is Ending. So, my story is based on a family of four. The two main characters shown throughout it are the parents who kind of have a conversation. And when the children are addressed, which isn't often, they're kind of just addressed as children, not as individuals. So, in the visual to the right, we can see a family, specifically a happy family. This family includes the father, Michael, mother, Carrie, and children, Lily and Braden. This is your typical family from a small town of Thibodaux, Louisiana. Michael is an engineer who works at a plant called Energy, while Carrie is a nurse at the local Thibodaux Regional Health System. Both of their children were of school age, 7 and 8, attending St. Joseph Elementary. They are a very well spoken family who is somewhat upper class. Together, they are very involved with their community, like many are in such a small community. So initially, their environment the Richards lived in was a very beautiful small city of Thibodaux, Louisiana. It was a small community that contained wildlife, flat land, wilderness, and it was very populated with plants. Not your typical growing out the ground plants, but instead an industrial facility that can be any fixed equipment or systems. For example, Entergy is a plant slash company, the one that Michael works for, that deals with a nuclear reactor that is used to utilize and spread power to the entire country. This environment is changed. On a normal day, May 27th of 2029, it took a turn for the worse when Iran launched a nuclear missile straight toward Louisiana, where many of the United States nuclear powered plants are located. This caused complete eradication of most of southern Louisiana. There were no people left, no wildlife, and no life in general. The land is still flat, but still most trees are dying, along with the rest of the plant life. And because the plant life is dying, the few wildlife that survived the initial hit of radiation is also dying off from lack of food. The climate is very hot with little wind. The rest of the country is still functioning regularly with the addition of fear that another one of these missiles may be coming for them next. The United States has ordered an immediate quarantine of all of Louisiana where the eradication occurred because of their lack of knowledge of what may come from this or the eradicated area. The only people that remain are Michael, Carrie, Lily, and Braden, the Richards, who took shelter in a bunker that Michael had built based on his knowledge of nuclear energy with the intention of using it if ever needed. Because he worked at Energy, he knew how serious and detrimental nuclear weapons could and may one day be. They have now been left with no rescue and not many resources. They must scavenge abandoned houses for food and water while trying to reach anyone outside that may be able to help. So their environment has gone from this beautiful Louisiana where it's filled with wildlife and plants and animals and people and culture to this dead, eradicated, completely destroyed area. and they are the only people left that are inhabitants of it. So, to continue the story, now that this family has survived the unsurvivable, they must scavenge and continue to survive until they have reached the rest of the world. After coming up from the bunker, they quickly realized they had no help. They were alone. The rest of the world had abandoned Louisiana. The Richards' world that they once called home was ultimately destroyed. They lacked food, water, and resources, and even eventually had to resort to breaking into vacant homes to scavenge through pantries and find anything left that was edible. Because many of the foods and drinks and different sources of energies had been contaminated from the nuclear weapons and the radiation. With nothing to do as far as activities besides your basic survival, the Richards made it a point to pray to God with their kids every day, ensuring that they kept the faith. Each day, this family traveled miles, hoping to get to the border of Arkansas and finally seek help. Ensuring they had enough water and food to survive became harder as they moved away from these civilizations and continued on their journey into these rural areas. They prayed and encouraged each other every day because some days their goal just seemed impossible. After a long month of traveling, the family decided to take a few days off in Shreveport, Louisiana. They were closer to the border than ever, but they were weak and drenched from the intense sunlight, heat, and weather that they had been struggling with throughout the journey. They eventually had to remove all of their clothes and cover with thinner materials that would cover all of the revealed skin and ultimately save them from the intense heat. They kept traveling even though they were blistering from the sunlight. They never gave up. They kept praying for a miracle and for the strength to continue, which they were granted. Eventually, they picked up the pace again, and after traveling for a week, they reached the border and entered Arkansas. Upon arrival, they were very disappointed because of how rural the area was. It was almost discouraging because they still had not found civilization, although they had reached their ultimate goal, getting to Arkansas. Michael wanted to give up. His children were in pain, and he had no hope left. Carrie picked him up and said, "If God got us this far, He won't let us down now." The children said, "Mama, why did God let this happen in the first place?" Carrie answered, "God does not give us more than we can handle. This will only strengthen us. And you two, kids, are the strongest kids I know. Do not question God. He has helped us every step along the way. We are lucky to be alive, and He has not let us down in any way." Soon after, they see a car passing on the highway along the woods in a distance, so they begin to try to wave it down. Unfortunately, the car did not see them and continued to drive away, leaving them in the dust and even more hopeless. They then decided to camp out in the area for the night, praying for another vehicle to drive by. They only had enough food and water left for one meal each, and not a big one, so they knew they needed to start to travel again soon while they still had energy. The next morning at dawn, they began to walk, and after hours, they stumbled across a town. They began explaining their journey, but the people were in disbelief, assuming everyone in Louisiana had passed away from the eradication. They were given resources and shelter for the night. They finally, after months, had a shower, a bed, and comfort. The next morning, Michael sees on the news that the U.S. wants to send a missile to Iran as revenge for what had happened in Louisiana. But Michael knows from his knowledge that this will end badly. He knows that if nuclear missiles are sent back and forth, eventually the whole world will be annihilated. Because of this, he hurries to talk to the town people, to tell them what he knows, what he has experienced. And together, the town of Charlotte, Arkansas, band together to make sure the U.S. did not send missiles towards Iran. They did not want a nuclear war. The government received this message and responded well, and quickly. It was surreal. The recharge journey had saved the world. Carrie then said to her children, "See, everything happens for a reason. God knew exactly what he was doing, so do not doubt him for a second. And by the way, your daddy just saved the world."